Yeah. What's good? This be the G Shah Cypha. You officially tune in to On the Grind Live, where we support anybody that's grinded in any type of craft, any genre, any business, whatever it may be, whatever you doing to put yourself to the next level, whether you know what I mean, entrepreneur, you working a 9 to 5, whatever it is you doing, positive that's taking things to another level. We want to talk about it because it's a grind. You know what I'm saying? And the only way to get to that positive level is the grind. And this is why it's On the Grind Live. But listen, I got somebody with me right now that's going to be that's been doing some big things for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And I want to make sure we highlight that. You know, usually you hear artists with me, but now you're going to hear a DJ. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna bring up the homie DJ Herbert Holler. You know what I'm saying? On here with us. You know what I mean? New York City. What's good? Listen, introduce yourself the right way because I don't know if I got it right. Let us know,
Okay.
you know what I mean, where you from. Like, let's just start there. And then I got my questions. I want to take it back and then bring us up to where we are now.
Thank you, Shah. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. My name is Herbert Holler. I've been working as a DJ and producer in nightlife and live music entertainment for the better part of, man, 30 years now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm originally from Atlantic City, New Jersey,
Right.
and now I live in the Bronx. That is not my apartment behind me.
It's all good. You know what I mean?
but
It's all good.
I didn't make my bed, so we're not having that in the background.
I
Um,
hear that.
I've been DJing since 2003 full time. Been on the scene since '94. In 2003, I also started what is now the longest running hip hop party in history, the longest running old school dance party in history. It's called Herbert Holler's Freedom Party.
Right.
20 plus years and 1,000 plus parties. Other than this event, which I do every single month, the first Friday of the month on Bleecker Street at LPR
Yeah.
in New York. I do it monthly in Philly. Tonight we got one in Philly. And I used to do it monthly for 7 years in Chicago. Um, Rest in peace, DJ Question out of Chicago. Big up to the Chi-Town folks too.
R.I.P.
And then in addition to that, I do a lot of, I'm mostly for hire DJs, all the private events, the
Yeah.
quiet joints, the exclusive joints where, I don't even bother promoting because
Yeah.
it's
It's
on the slide.
private.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Listen, I want to take it back though. I was on your website, you know what I mean, for the last couple of days. I like to prepare. You get what I'm saying? And I read
Uh-huh.
something about you when you were young, and it has to do with your parents and trying
Yeah.
to induce sleep. You know what I'm saying? In the
Yeah.
beginning. So when you were a child, before your father's dancing routine, and we'll talk about that, was discovered as a solution. Like, what was some of those can you recall any specific measures that your parents took to help you get to sleep? Because this kind of leads up to how you became a DJ. So let's talk about that.
I can't ever speak about my parents without, giving thanks and, you know, um, acknowledging my gratitude for them being there in my life,
Right.
both of them. Like that's just so lucky. And my heart sort of goes out to the folks that are couldn't have that, to the kids and the children that don't have that.
Right.
So I have to say thank you for that. But yeah, I was a pain in the ass. Are we allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay, I was a real pain in the ass when I was a kid. I got like thrown out of different schools, fighting, whatever. But one of the things that made me a pain in the ass was that it was hard for me to go to bed. I was always, all over the place. So
Right.
you know, they weren't gonna give me, whiskey. So they found out one night that I was soothed by music,
Right.
so one night my dad just put me on his shoulder and put on some like Fleetwood Mac or Queen or Meat. I don't know what it was. Some like 70s funky Doobie Brothers, maybe something funky in
Right.
70s. And then was just like doing the old white dad two-step, and
Right.
then my mom must have came and was like, look, he's asleep. So that was it. And so that
That's
became sort
cool.
of but how lucky am I to be able to like have someone who would do that like semi regularly, at least just to get me to sleep,
Get you to sleep. Right.
I have kids now, and it's like it's not easy. So I appreciate
No,
that.
definitely. So how did your parents' music preferences influence your taste in music as you were growing up?
Um, but that set me on my way, and
Right, right, right,
it was the music that they listened to that I sort of really took to. It wasn't even so much the it wasn't so much the Fleetwood Mac at the time. It wasn't like the Kansas or the. It was definitely Queen. It was things that had a bigger mix of influence. It wasn't just rock that was just rock, even though
right,
rock isn't, is made up of a lot of things. It was really the sounds that were full of different genres of music. So it was Queen for sure, and it was
right,
Electric Light Orchestra, which is times can be disco and times can be opera and
right,
classical, and it was definitely the songs that had more more dimension to them.
right,
Those were my favorite tracks, and the ones that were fun and dancey too.
right. So as you start to develop the music that you like to listen to, and really all the different genres, the orchestra, the hip hop, the rock, the different things that you listen to, like how when did you decide, like, hey, I know music is the path that I'm going, that is the path, the direction I'm going, but how did you decide, okay, I'm gonna be a DJ? You get what I'm saying? Because
Uh,
for me it was rap. You get what I'm saying? So
right,
to other
right,
people it's like, I want to be just a producer, or I want to play an instrument. But how
right.
did the DJ portion come?
Well, it wasn't. I'm going to be completely honest. It wasn't hip hop. When I was growing up, it was. You know, I remember the first song I was singing was "Rapper's Delight." I walk around the house with my brother trying to sing what they were saying, hip hop, hippity the hippie, and we didn't know what we were
Right,
saying, but we just loved it.
right,
And um, it was more that we had one of those streamlined upright pianos in the house. So really, I started on the piano. That was what where my mother would force me to be because I didn't
right,
want to be practicing all the time. But that's how my connection with doing something with music really started. Um, I didn't see myself as a DJ. I mean, I still don't even see myself as a DJ. It's so weird. Like I still fight that reality because I don't feel like the DJs that you follow or that you see out there. Like
right, right,
I don't feel. Uh, it's not that I don't feel kinship. I just don't feel a lot of similarities, like in the
right,
stuff that they like and I like. I just don't. So I didn't think that I was going to be a DJ as a profession, do DJing as a profession or as a professional until 2003.
wow.
It
Oh,
it I was in me was this more conservative traditional narrative where
like,
okay, if I DJ I can do it as a hobby, cool, but I have to get a real job.
right,
And little did I know that this unreal job of DJing would make me more successful than I probably would have been if I had a real job.
right, right,
So you do a lot of fighting as a human being when you're on your path. You're fighting the things that are the prescriptions that are keeping you bound to earth.
right, right,
This is
right,
what you're supposed to do at this age and do this and do that. And the journey of this first half of your life until about 40, 45 is breaking free from all those one at a time. And then convincing yourself and being at ease that it's okay to do that.
right,
It's not just being able to sever a tie to some old narrative, but it's finding the confidence and comfort in doing that. And there's two entirely different things. So I wasn't until 2003 that I wanted to be a DJ.
man.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to say, hey,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
decided to do the DJ thing earlier than that, which is
Mm.
cool with me, because it tells me that you went through a process and you had to go through that process to
A
find.
long process.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And
Um,
and and um yeah, it wasn't the DJ that brought me. I mean, I was influenced by someone. I remember one of the first dances I ever went to in high school, Atlantic City High School. There was oh gosh, he's gonna kill me for forgetting his name. One of the teachers would DJ the proms, and I remember he was going in between Down with the King back and forth, and I was like, oh, I was like, wow,
Right.
that was dope. And then I would go to these Jewish youth dances because I'm Jewish and I was in these youth organizations. It was called United Synagogue Youth, and there was another DJ Pogo, and he would just play. He would play lots of '90s R&B and hip hop too in his sets, and that was like. I had on the skids. I had on this Gap V-neck sweater, which I just wore on Friday night to my '90s party.
Yeah.
The same sweater, and I was just doing the Running Man. But I still wasn't hip. DJing wasn't. I mean, I was more like I'll be a dancer more than that. But
Right.
again, it didn't happen until 2003, really.
You spent some time and a lot of time nightclub environment, right? So how do you feel? How do you think the nightclub environment that you were in shape your DJ experience or ways of being a DJ now? Did it really do you have to be in the nightclubs and really experience that to say, okay, this is the way I'm going to DJ when I do this? Or, was it kind of like a, just chilling, or is it a study mode? Like, how did you
Right.
use a nightclub
Well, at
environment?
first, when I got to the city, and from the first place I went was when I got to the city, I was pre-med. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I wanted to be a doctor and do what ma and pa wanted me to do. And when I first got here, I went out. And the first place I walked into was a New York Poets Cafe
Right.
in the East Village, and it was a heckler's ball where people were doing spoken word, and then you were getting judged not on the actual poetry that you perform, but on the hecklers and how good their heckles were.
Right.
So there's just and then I don't know if it was the heckler's ball I walked in or it was Rocky LaMontagne's All That Hip Hop Poetry and Words. I think that was it.
Yeah.
And it was just hip hop and jazz and spoken word and poetry. And right then I knew that I wasn't, I wasn't pre-med anymore. I was like, okay, this is the path that I need to be on, and being in a library studying all the damn time is not going to cut it.
Right.
So I started going out, and and a short aside, when I was young, my dad was a director at Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City, and so that's where I was bit by this bug. That's where this seed was planted. This alien was planted in me, was from that time. So when I got to
That's
New
what I
York, that
meant.
just came out the stomach like the Alien movie, and
Right.
now it was
Right.
this
Right. Right.
monster that. And so being in the clubs first was just excitement, being around so many people and feeling that energy and that community and that joy that everyone was sort of sharing with one another. It was like kind of like the model of the way the COVID pandemic worked, how it
Right.
jumps
Right.
from person to person. That's what joy from music does too, on
Right.
a dance floor when people are not in their phones but hearing the music and looking at each other. And so it just jumps from person to person. You have this solid state of molecules just buzzing, and being a part of that was just better than any drug you could ever imagine. So that's
Right.
what it drove me for quite some time, being at
Right.
that, the music, hip hop, R&B, reggae, jungle music, which later became drum and bass,
Right.
acid jazz, trip hop, trance, house, techno, it didn't matter, rock, ska, indie rock, like all of it I loved. And just being on that dance floor and being a part of that energy is what pushed me forward. Eventually, in the early 2000s, when I started dabbling with DJ, then I started going out with a little more strategy in mind, listening, seeing how records come off, seeing how DJs play their audiences, and not just feeling it as an audience member, but removing myself from them and saying, oh, I see what just happened.
Right.
So Evil D at Opaline was an early person, an early night that I've heard. I'm like, wow, he just really, DJ Evil D from Black Moon, from Beat Miners. DJ Goldfinger was another one. When I would listen to him and see how he tickles and tortures and even torments people on the
Right.
dance
Right.
floor with the way that he played. And that's when I started to listen more carefully, and see how these movements went from genres to genres. Yeah.
You've been in this business for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe some of your challenges and rewarding moments that you've experienced over time? I know it can change. Tonight you might experience even something greater. You get what I'm saying? But is there
Right.
any challenge or or any rewarding things that you can think of off the top of your head.
There's so much reward, even especially the times you don't think it's there. So it's times that you think you're suffering, you're really
Right.
being given a gift. It's really a reward
Yeah.
for your dedication to something. When something challenging comes along or something that caused you to suffer someone, it's really a reward for your faith in what you're doing, because that challenge and that suffering will get you to a next level.
Right.
I would
Right.
think the biggest challenge for me has always been confidence and
Mhm.
believing in myself
Right.
and not listening to or necessarily needing someone else's affirmation. Now it's a tricky thing. It's a double-edged, well, not double-edged sword, but
It's close.
it's a tricky thing, because as a DJ, you must have affirmation, and that's what you work for.
Right.
When you play a song, the affirmation is the crowd going crazy,
Right.
and
Right.
you want that all the time. So how do you, in that regard, how do you train yourself and mold yourself to get the affirmation, but then simply turn off that switch when it's time not to get the affirmation?
Right.
So
Right.
my most of my challenge and suffering has, or whatever, has come from finding that confidence in yourself, in myself, and really truly believing that I was meant to do this, even though I don't look like a DJ, even though I didn't follow the prescription for DJing, even though I don't put out mixtapes,
Right.
even though I eschew principles that perhaps other DJs don't eschew, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you know, um, you know,
You do you like that. You your own brand, right? Like that's the thing about. I see a lot of DJs today that are similar, and for me that's a problem because I can't tell the difference between you and the other DJ and whether who I should pay attention to. But when I see a different style or a different way of doing things and
mm,
mixing, someone that can touch different genres. That's kind of like when you listen to an artist and their music. Do you sound like this person? What do you grab? So that's how I look at it from a DJ perspective. Like,
right,
I know a bunch of DJs that I can point to and say, yeah, this DJ is nothing like this DJ. When I want this, I'm gonna go to this DJ. When I
right,
want this, I'm gonna go to
right,
this DJ. Then there's DJs, well, no matter who I go to in this pool, I'm gonna get the same thing, right? So it happens, but I'm glad that you built your own path and you do it the way you do it. It works, people
right.
recognize it, respect it, and that's why you have clients and you know you have events that you do. You work with brands. Speaking with brands, you've worked with Adidas, Apple. I'm
Yeah.
looking at it right now. City, Capital One, apps. Real Fortune 500
Oh,
brands.
and I still do, and I
You know
still
what I mean?
do.
You still do. Like, how, what is that experience like? Like, do you have to separate Herbert Holler, the DJ, with the brand? And then do you have to do certain, do you have to react or do certain things with these brands that you wouldn't do with the artists that you work with? Because we're going to talk about the artists as well.
Um, that's something I think about often,
Right,
is because the DJ that I portray on Instagram most of the time may not be the DJ that these Fortune 500 companies want to hire,
right,
for a lot of reasons.
right,
Um, I don't know, there's a lot of honesty that we could have, but um, there's a glossiness that a lot of them are a sexiness,
right,
um, that a lot of them understandably need to see to sort of, you know, be convinced that you're someone, because it's a lot of branding and a lot of imagery involved in, especially these corporate companies.
right,
Um, I think that some of the time I've gotten over that by some of the relationships that I have, and those weren't things that were handed to me, because my family aren't never in this industry. They're not even in this city. They don't have anything to do with music. They're not anything to do with marketing. They have nothing to do.
right,
They're doing things that have no relation to. So it's relationships that I build, and I've been lucky that I think I got the opportunities that some glossier folks haven't got, through those relationships that I've made by, like you said, being in the industry so long,
Right.
working at the record labels, writing and editing for the magazines and doing all this stuff. And um, I got the opportunity, right?
Mhm.
So once I was in there and they heard me and the way that I put together each song's story and the way that I mix these things together and the way I connect with the music and have other people connect the music, then they're like, then that sort of was, I think they were able to look beyond the fact that there's not this platinum veneer to what I do, that I'm a little
Right.
rawer and more energetic of a, a little rawer of a person, you
Right.
know, that doesn't necessarily have that veneer.
When I look at your resume as far as artists that you would work with, I see different genres. I see different decades of music, right? I see different I see different personalities. Do you, for example, Chub Rock, which is something I just saw recently on your Instagram. You know what I'm saying? And Chub Rock's one of them, D Nice, Dougie Fresh, but then now you got Boys the Man, you got uh um Alicia Myers, you got Miguel, Special Ed, Stoop Dog. Do you choose the artists that you work with, or do they just come to you and you're like, okay, let's do it? Like, do you have to build a rapport with these artists, because you
Right.
have a plethora of different artists, even DJ Funk Flex, and Fabulous, artists from the era that I grew up in, and then artists from the era that I learned where music came from, like where my older brothers came up in, like
Right.
and even some that after me, Marion, that's after me. You get what I'm saying? So,
Right.
how do you choose the artists that you work with?
Well, half the time they choose me, and the other half of the time I'm like, I want to work with them, so I make as many phone calls as I can. Like
Right, right,
you can't ever be too proud to not reach out and try to grab what you want,
right, right,
unless you're at the point where you don't got to do that. I mean, I'm sure there are some DJ. Well, I don't even think there are. I can't even imagine, like, in the open format game, the game, the lane that I'm in, I can't imagine no matter what height you reach as a DJ, you're still not having your people reach out to somebody's people. So
right, right,
it's half and half. Sometimes they contact me, and a lot of the time, maybe even somewhat most of the time, I contact them. I'm like, I want to open up for this. I want to DJ this. Here's what I do. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure.
tonight
Or they're
you
like, no, get out of here.
I hear you on
Yeah.
that. Tonight you got one of the things you was talking about earlier, the Herbert Holler's Freedom Party. Let's dive into that a little bit more, because this is not something that you just started, right?
Mm-mm.
You're doing it in Philly, but
Mhm.
talk about, like, when did you decide to do this party, and then how often are you doing it, and then um what's involved in putting that together?
So it started in, I think it was about 2002. I started shopping around the idea to different people I'd already been working with. Just I was in the industry. A lot of people. I sat down with a number of people. Like, I really want to go whole hog into this
Right,
classic dance party where we're playing classics and old school, and we're free of the nightlife restraints that at the time started really coming on full force. The velvet ropes, the bottles, the this, the that. I just like, what
right,
happened to, like, when we were going out in the 90s? What happened to that? Why is that gone? And we can't let that happen. So shopped it around a number of folks, found a couple folks that were more into it, and then put that underway. It worked out when things were going, and I was just working hard at it, and it was a full-time job. And people only know a party by the place they show up to and the
right,
4 to
right,
6 hours that they go see. But that's the tip of the iceberg. Most of the work happens before and after, and all of the marketing and promotion and messaging and emails and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. It can amount to a 40-hour a week job, and that's
right,
before the party even starts.
right,
So I just treated it like a full-time job, and it was tough because not only the people that I worked with, different rotating people, they didn't really treat it like a full-time job, but not a lot of people do. You know, a lot of the promoters and people that I came across along the way were just like, it was just a side job. They had a full-time job. So one of the things I did eventually was say, I'm never working with someone who doesn't do this for a living, um, or can prove that they have done it as a side job and have been successful. Um, um, and I just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it. And there were definitely times that I wanted to stop,
Yeah.
but I kept going. And there are definitely times that, you know, I could have. It would have been really easy just to say, you know what, forget it. It's not
Yeah.
worth all this.
Right.
Not
Right.
worth all this. But some of those times also give you fuel to keep going. Sometimes you don't know it, but the painful moments push you harder, you know?
Would you say that's the? Would you say is that one of the biggest things you've learned is that the painful, the painful moments is the path that gets you the way you want to be, or like what would you say was the biggest lesson you've learned so far
uh, through
today?
this party?
Right. Right.
Well, that's a tough one because it's been 20 years. Um, it's really hard. I would say that there's been so many lessons, which one I think is the biggest one. I think that you can't let your need for affirmation, we're going back to this affirmation thing and this
Right.
lack
Right.
of confidence and this insecurity. You cannot let that manipulate what your truths are, what your values are, who your God is. You can't let it get that bad where you're just questioning your own not your own existence, but questioning, because that sounds very dark.
Right. Right.
Questioning if what you believe in to be true is really true at all.
Right.
It's okay to question that, but not to the point where you're doubting it. You know, you
Right. Right. I
and
mean,
and
especially when it comes to your talent, right? Like,
right,
if you want to achieve something, or if you really want to go for something, don't get in your own head
right,
or get in your own way. People are going to talk, let them talk. As long
right,
as you are, finding a way to go forward, no matter
right.
how small or big the move is to get there. Point is you going forward. So I definitely understand that.
And and you have to also remind yourself that these struggles with who you are and these battles with truth, they're all leading up to that moment where you will be confident and you will be secure.
Right.
You can't be that way without those. You can't avoid struggle or strife for so
Right.
many
Right.
reasons. But that
Right.
will, if you're struggling with figuring out who you are, just remind yourself and um, be be at ease knowing that it's a part of the process.
Right.
That at
Right.
least this struggle will get me to a place where I'm doesn't feel like I'm struggling as much.
Right.
Because
Right.
to be honest, opposition is never going to end, ever. But at certain
Right.
point, when you're such a beast with it, it's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah. Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean?
You've been doing it for so long. You don't.
Right,
It's
right, and that's the
you know.
that's the truth with everything. Even with like when
Right.
you're raising kids, or if you have anxiety, or if you have you know baggage or something, the anxiety is never going to go away. But
Right.
eventually, you're just going to be like, all right. So
You
it's
know how
going
to
to
deal
feel
with it
like
better.
it ain't much, and it's not really there. It's
Right.
always going to be there, but you have to harden yourself. And once you harden
Right.
yourself, there comes this moment that I feel like I'm on the cusp of as a 47-year-old in this business for 30 years. I feel like I'm almost there. Where I'm just
Right. 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 Yeah.
I don't have to wonder anymore. Now I can just
Right.
full steam ahead. And that's why you hear about so many people who in their late 40s or 50s or even 60s that are doing the most and
Right.
doing more and doing even better when they're in that time, because now there's absolutely nothing keeping them back but gravity.
Right. Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm doing at 47, I'm doing better than I've done in my entire career. Thank
That's what's
God,
up. You know what
and
I
look at,
realize? You know what I realize,
yeah,
and I'm 43. You know what I'm saying? And what I realize is that the older I get, the more I value time, the more I value
right.
peace, the more I value,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, people that are for me. You know what I mean? The more I value family,
right,
especially my kids. You get what I'm saying? And the more things that I want to do, I want to find a way to make those happen. And I already know these people over here gonna try to, do what they do to stop me, but I don't got used to it so much that it doesn't affect me the way it did in the
right,
past, right?
right.
It's not. I'm no longer on a what if they do say something,
Right.
like, so
Well, let's be real. The learning never ends. Like
right, that's a
you
fact.
never stop learning. I'm still working on things. Like I still get peeved and emotionally triggered when I'm on Instagram and somebody says something ignorant or something
Right,
obnoxious
right,
or
right,
something.
right, right,
So I still have things to work on. I still have to like work on my, you know, not giving it an F. I
right,
still
right,
have a lot of work to go on that. The learning never ends and the work doesn't stop, but eventually, it slows down a little bit. you know,
right, 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 right. I
you
hear
know?
you. Let me ask you this. One of the
Yeah.
questions we like to ask is on the grind live. Like, what do you feel like your definition of grind is?
Um, when you're grinding or when you're on your grind, I see gears and I see myself squeezing through those gears and pushing forward, even though those gears are pushing you the other way, and you're just
Right,
powering through them and grinding through them. So
right,
a
right,
long, hard day of work with lots of hurdles, lots of opposition, and you're just, whether it's a day or, a year, a month, a year, a week, month, year, or a decade, that grind is just you squeezing through those gears to
yeah.
make it to your goal.
That's a fact. That's good because a lot of times, some people when they're grinding, they run into those obstacles where they feel like, man, I've been grinding so hard, but I'm not where I want to be yet. You get what I'm
Just keep
saying?
just
Am
gotta
I'm going to
keep
get there? Right? Like they don't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel where they're trying to get to, not
right,
understanding that it's the grind that's needed, the work that's
right.
necessary, the path
And
that you're going through.
and what you can say definitively is, well, you'll never know if you stop.
Right. Right.
Right,
That's a fact. Like if you quit,
right. You'll
you
never
know that
know.
much.
Yeah, that's
You
it.
quit it, bro. You quit right there.
Right,
That's a definite right there. But if you keep going, there's always a possibility. I've been hearing this a lot. You only got to be right once. So once you get there, it's pretty much
yeah.
it's pretty much go from there.
I think life is a series of being right. It's a progression of small
Right.
victories and successes that get you to certain places. Because remember, you move the goalpost yourself every time.
Right.
Because one day at one point, Shah, you told yourself, "I'll be happy if I make this."
Right.
But
Right.
then once you made it there, you're like, but what about? And it keeps going and
Right.
going, and
Right.
now you're
Right.
like, when does it end? So
Right.
I think that you got to also be mindful that you're moving the goalpost yourself.
Right.
You know,
So you got tonight, 10 p.m. Herbert Holler Freedom Party in Philly.
that's right.
What can the people in Philly expect?
Um, well, old school, classic, some 2000s, just fun, just
Right.
connection. You don't have a lot of people on their phones. There's no DJ worship. Nobody's like staring at me
Right.
unless they think I'm funny looking, which I don't blame them. But there's just people connecting and community, and that's what I've done. That's what I want every time I have a dance floor, and that's what
Right.
this party was intended for,
Right.
just to connect together, you know. So people can expect good people, good music, good fun, and a good time without all the BS, without the attitude,
Right.
without the weird. There's like weirdos these days that are like they're just not there when they're there in front of you. It's like
Right. Right.
they're just, it's like, I've seen people, yeah, they just doesn't, that's
Right.
not happening. What's happening is people are connecting in real time. And there's nothing that will ever top that.
Right. Right. That's a fact. That's a
Yeah.
fact. History's repeating itself. When you got people really communicating face to face and
Yeah.
not staring at the phones all the time. Let
Yeah.
me ask you this: looking towards the future, do you have any specific goals or aspirations for your career in the music and entertainment industry?
I would be lying if I said to you that it wasn't about the money.
Okay,
I wanna bring in more money.
that's a
That's
fact.
something.
Nothing wrong with that.
I got 3 kids, and none of them are dumb. They're all gonna be going to expensive schools. So,
I hear
um
you. I got four. I understand you. I
yeah,
understand. Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh,
And I
God
started
bless.
over. My fourth one is kind of like a start over because I have a
Wow.
17, 15, 14, and four.
Mm,
So,
wow. So
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 it's,
I
I know how
I'd
you
be
feel.
lying if I said the money, but I think that contentment, when people ask when they say, "Oh, I just wanna be happy." And I'm like, "Yeah, but happiness is an emotion that's fleeting. It goes away."
Right, right,
Even
right,
the Dalai Lama says it's your right to be happy, but I don't think the Dalai Lama meant all the time.
right, right, right,
I don't wanna
right.
be happy all the time. That's, like, weird and goofy. Like, "Hey, what's" I mean, like,
Yeah, yeah.
that's kinda weird. What I wanna do is I wanna be content or and satisfied, same thing, because
Mhm.
that makes you at peace with whatever emotion is coming into your
Right,
so my goal is just to be content. I feel like as I'm getting older, I'm experiencing more slowly. It's a trickle. Experiencing more of those moments where I'm like, sitting in the car with my family or at the house, watching TV. And sometimes I'm stopping and I'm like, and it's not good to do this often because you don't want to
right,
remove yourself. But I'm like, this is pretty awesome.
right, right, right,
And then I
right.
sort
I
of
hear you.
check back in. Now you don't want to remove yourself and do that to analyze the situation too
Too
often because then
often, right?
it becomes a
Spacing
problem.
out. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
but I don't think there's anything wrong with like reminding yourself, especially you know, organically in these
Right,
moments that, like, I just love the color of my wardrobe and the way the sun's coming in the window. It just feels good. And
right.
more of that's happening to me lately. It's not so much me like fighting, oh, I just want this and this and this and this and ignoring everything that I have. I'm starting to very slowly appreciate the things that I have. And that's just the chef's kiss right there.
Yeah.
Because then you don't need much,
Right, right, right.
you know?
Sometimes you get to a point where you don't really need much to be happy because you've already experienced everything else. You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So,
Yeah.
you know, listen, you got a website,
Yeah.
herbertholler.com. Let everybody know your Instagram.
Herbert
Let-
Holler.
Any other social medias that you be tagged on to?
Just Instagram and Facebook are the places that you can see most of the what I do. Twitter is most of what I think. Eh, I would. I have a book that I wrote. I actually finished it over the pandemic. It's about my life leading up to being a DJ and
Right.
past. That's going to come out in 2024. I swear. The first draft is done. I've had it developed. Now I have to work on the second draft, and I'm not looking forward to doing more clanking away at the computer and the keyboard. But that's coming
Right.
out, and that's really gonna. It touches. We touched on some of the things that's in the book, but the book goes into a little more depth.
What's
Um,
the name of it?
it's
Do you have a
called.
name
Well,
for
it's
it?
copywritten, so I don't have to worry about anyone stealing the name. But it's
Okay.
called "My Son, the DJ."
Okay. Dope.
So it's based on this thing that, like, a proud parent in certain communities and maybe in most communities when they introduce their a proud mother will be like, have you met my son the
Right.
DJ? They'll say, have you met my son the doctor?
Right,
That's what
right,
they'll
right,
say. So I kind of flip it and
right,
call it the
right,
DJ, and that's sort of an echo of my own battle with what we spoke about first in this interview
right, right, right.
of being the DJ and not the doctor,
Doctor. Right, right,
not
right,
the having this abnormal career instead of the normal respected prestigious career,
right, right.
So, yeah.
Anything else you want to tell the people? First, let me shout out good girl PR because she, what I mean,
Yes.
she always send me the good people, what I mean, to talk to. And anybody she send me is always official. So let me make sure I shout her out. But anybody else that you want to shout out?
Yes, Nikki, DJ Nikki, Good Girl PR. Thank you so much
Yes.
for the opportunity and for everything else. Nikki is the more I do work in this industry and work hard, and the more years I put in, the more I come across people who are really of integrity and
Right.
of true value and true worth, and don't cater to the voices and the gossips, and that they do what they know is right and they stick to that. And I love these people, and she's one of them.
Right. That's a fact. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So shout out to her. Any of all of my parties that you can come to are on my website in the events tab. Just go to the events and check them out. Saturday, I have a newer hip hop party I started that focuses on late 90s and 2000s. It's called Jams. It's back on Bleecker Street where I am with the old school party. That's brand new. It's doing well. Come by to that Saturday if you want. Um, Gosh, I'm sure there's someone I need to shout out that I'm not. Man,
Well, they know
I
you
don't.
didn't forget about them. That's how I look at it. Like, listen, because these are on the spot. You usually think about
Yeah,
them after the fact. You know what I'm saying? But just shout out to everybody that's been supporting. You know what I mean? Supporting On the Grind Live, Herbert Holler.
yeah,
Anything that you've been doing. From day one.
yeah. Thank you.
And really just keep doing what you're doing. I definitely been paying attention since Nikki pointed me your direction, and
Thank you.
trying to stay as focused as possible. So
Thank you.
and just keep doing it. If you don't hear it a lot, definitely proud of what you got going on, and
Thank you.
proud of your success, and then just keep doing it.
Thank you. It's nice
um
to, yeah. Nice
yeah,
for you to
man.
say that. I appreciate it.
Definitely. So I want you to have a great party tonight. Philly. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm in Florida right now. I live in
Okay.
Florida currently, but I'm my parents live in Delaware, so I'm
Okay.
always in the
Oh,
Philly,
okay.
Philly area too
You
when
know
I'm out
Atlantic
there.
City too then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right there across that Delaware Memorial Bridge. Yeah,
That's it.
so right there. So I definitely have some roots there. So keep doing your thing, man. And I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
spending time with us.
Thank you.
Um, and if y'all just tuning in, it's kind of too late, but what I'll let you know is that we'll have this on our podcast, on our Spotify's, our Apples, and if you're on YouTube, shout out to everybody on YouTube right now. It's playing. You can go replay this since we did this live. You know what I mean? So
No,
shout out to everybody. Keep doing what you do. Herbert Holler, have a good show tonight, my G. Keep
thanks.
doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
Salute.
and come by and swim in the pool. See the pool back there? They've got a pool. Come by.
Yeah. All right, man.
All
We'll
right.
talk to you. Enjoy the rest of your night,
Okay.
sir.
You
All right.
too.